Rick and I have got a cool knife for you. This is the Boker Plus Blacklist fixed blade. Let's check it out. So Blacklist is a fixed blade outdoor knife. It has a blade length of just under 5 inches. It is 0.2 inches thick with 440C stainless steel and a stonewash finish. It's a knife that could do a lot of things for you depending on what you want to do in the outdoors. It's good for hunting, it's good for survival tasks, it's good for camp tasks. Even though it does have a thick blade, I was able to get some pretty good wood shavings off of this for finer bushcraft tasks, and I was also able to split wood pretty well, so for camp chores it's a good option. It does have a 90-degree spine, so you can strike a fire steel with it, and I think that's a good thing to have in a wilderness blade for that kind of contingency plan where any knife could become a survival knife. You never know. Taking a closer look at the blade, it does have a nice sweeping point to it. It's not a drop point, I wouldn't count it as that, and even though it doesn't have the kind of semi-sharpened swedge that a drop point would have, doesn't really have any taper, it still has great penetration qualities when you hold it in the reverse grip. I was pretty surprised that it penetrated so well, and it did pretty well even when doing bow drill tasks. I'm by no means a bow drill master. I really don't use them that much besides demonstrations, and even though I don't think this is the right kind of point to have for a knife that you would do bow drill tasks with, it still did okay. Taking a closer look at the handle's green G10 scales with light green liners. It is incredibly comfortable in any grip. You can cut any way you want with it, and that's where kind of the utility for camp chores comes in, having to do food processing, maybe for skinning if you're hunting. It works out pretty well. The one thing that is a downside for some people is that it doesn't really have a hook on the back of it. It doesn't really come to a point where you can choke back and use it for chopping. This knife can chop because it is a bit hefty, but it's not what I would use for chopping without a really tight lanyard on the back of it. Again, just because the handle's really not shaped for it. I don't really like to chop with survival knives anyways that are under 7 inches. It's just not my thing. Some people really do like to do that because it is their thing. But this knife with the handle shape is probably not the right knife to do it with, but it's still a very capable knife. It cuts very well, it batons very well, and the blade shape, that sweeping point with the big belly on it, makes a great outdoor knife, food processing knife for camp chores. And also, hunters who aren't afraid of carrying a heavier blade into the wilderness will probably also like it. The blade steel is 440C and it's hardened to Rockwell 57 to 58. And that's pretty good. It's going to get you really good edge retention on a steel that isn't what people would call a super steel. The one downside that some people have is that 440C is just a little bit harder to sharpen than other steels. If you have a good field sharpener, that's not a problem. I ran the knife through a work sharp with a softer band on it just to do a little bit of touch-up, and things turned out pretty well. The sheath is Kydex, and it's very secure, even though there's no retention strap on it. And there's really nothing I can say about it that's bad. It does have a drainage hole at the front, so if it gets wet or it gets in the water, it'll drain out. There are lashing points for paracord. The one ding that I have on the sheath is a belt clip. Belt clip is just simple plastic. It can adjust to any width of belt that you have. Problem is, it does take a smaller torque wrench to do that, and it's a little tricky to do. I've got it for 1.5 inches, and the problem with it is with the mounting holes, it can't really mount vertically on your belt without going really high in your waist. I've got it kind of set up for a weird appendix carry because that's all I can really think of that would be conveniently placed on my belt for easy access. It's by no means fast access. It's not optimal. I think either a ballistic nylon loop going up with the handle would be good, or some kind of Kydex plate with another belt clip, and instead of the belt clip, maybe a tech lock. The only other small ding I have on the production of this knife is that the belly of the blade was not as sharp as it was closer to the finger choil, but that's it. Other than that, this is a pretty solid knife. Retails for around $100 depending on where you go, and again, you might want to consider the fact that you may need to switch out your attachment system. Anyways, thanks for watching. For more articles and gear reviews, go to shadowfoxhq.com.